Dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, Southeast England, stone's throw from the English Channel, here with our exalted guest, Radharaman Prabhu, whose flat we're living in. He's actually the owner of the live studios. And we had lovely 2 days with the new devotees and Sankirtan devotees from Wales. And I apologize to all of you stalwarts out there that didn't get a chance to be heard yesterday because of the overwhelming response of the devotees that were in the room, the 10 devotees that were in the room. So thank you very much for your gracious hospitality, because I feel that you're part of the family. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava. Actually, texts 412 through 416, glorifying the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the pastimes of Krishna, by Srila Sanatana Goswami. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgudo Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Anandana Mostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chutatakada hanamunchagada chenvam premna rit kantayokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So here we are. We've reached the 65th chapter of the Krishna book. Lord Balarāma visits Vṛndāvana. Lord Balarāma became very anxious to see his father and mother in Vṛndāvana. Therefore, with great enthusiasm, he started on a chariot for Vṛndāvana. The inhabitants of Vṛndāvana had been anxious to see Krishna and Balarāma for a very long time. When Lord Balarāma returned to Vṛndāvana, all the cowherd boys and gopis had grown up. But still, on his arrival, they all embraced him, and Balarāma embraced them in reciprocation. After this, he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda and offered his respectful obeisances. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishwara, or the Lord of the universe, who maintains everyone. The reason for this was that Krishna and Balarāma maintain all living entities, and yet Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balarāma and, seating him on their laps, began their perpetual crying, wetting Balarāma with their tears. Lord Balarāma then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Lord Balarāma exchanged feelings of happiness with them. He shook hands with those who were his equals in age and friendship, and with loud laughing embraced each one of them. After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balarāma sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Balarāma inquired from them about their welfare, and then, since they had not seen him for such a long time, they began to ask him different questions. The inhabitants of Vṛndāvana had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything like elevation to the heavenly planets or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one with the absolute truth. They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but were satisfied in living a simple life in the village as cowherds. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefits. And they were all so much in love with him that in his absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balarāmaji. First, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda inquired, "My dear Balarāma, are our friends like Vyāsadeva and others in the family doing well? Now you and Krishna are grown-up, married men with children. In the happiness of family life, do you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi? It is very good news that the most sinful King Kāśī has been killed by you, and that our friends, like Vyāsadeva and the others, who had been harassed, have now been relieved. It is also very good news that you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha in Kaliyavana, who is now dead, and that you are living in a fortified residence in Dwarka." When the gopis arrived, Lord Balarāma glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna's and Balarāma's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balarāma whether Krishna was enjoying his life surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarkapuri. Does he sometimes remember his father Nanda and his mother Yashoda and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved while in Vṛndāvana? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother Yashoda? And does he remember us gopis, who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Krishna may have forgotten us in the midst of the cultured women of Dwarka, but as far as we are concerned, we still remember him by collecting flowers and sewing them into garlands. When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time crying. If only he would come here and accept these garlands we have made. Dear Lord Balarāma, descendant of Dashara, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members. But although it might be impossible for others, we gave up our fathers, mothers, sisters, and relatives. But then Krishna went away. But then Krishna, without caring a pinch for our renunciation, all of a sudden renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship without serious consideration and left for a foreign country. But he was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him? Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us." Protesting Krishna's absence from Vṛndāvana, another gopi said, "My dear Balarāma-ji, we are of course village girls, so Krishna could cheat us in that way. But what about the women of Dwaraka? Don't think they are as foolish as we are. We village women may be misled by Krishna, but the women of the city of Dwaraka are very clever and intelligent. Therefore, I would be surprised if such city women could be misled by Krishna and could believe his words." Then another gopi began to speak. "My dear friends," she said, "Krishna is very clever in using words. No one can compete with him in that art. He can manufacture such colorful words and talk so sweetly that the heart of any woman would be misled. Besides that, he has perfected the art of smiling very attractively, and by seeing his smile, women become mad after him and give themselves to him without hesitation." Another gopi, after hearing this, said, "My dear friends, what is the use of talking about Krishna? If you are at all interested in passing time by talking, let us talk on some subject other than him. If cruel Krishna can pass his time without us, why can't we pass our time without Krishna? Of course, Krishna is passing his days without us very happily, but we cannot pass our days happily without him." When the gopis were talking in this way, their feelings for Krishna became more and more intense, and they were experiencing Krishna's smiling, Krishna's words of love, Krishna's attractive features, Krishna's characteristics, and Krishna's embraces. By the force of their ecstatic feelings, it appeared to them that Krishna was personally present and dancing before them. Because of their sweet remembrance of Krishna, they could not check their tears, and they cried without consideration. Lord Balarāma, of course, could understand the ecstatic feelings of the gopis, and therefore he wanted to pacify them. He was expert in presenting an appeal, and thus, treating the gopis very respectfully, he began to narrate the stories of Krishna so tactfully that the gopis became satisfied. To keep the gopis in Vṛndāvana satisfied, Lord Balarāma stayed there continuously for 2 months, namely the months of Chaitra, March-April, and Vaishakha, April-May. For these 2 months, he kept himself among the gopis, and he passed every night with them in the forest of Vṛndāvana to satisfy their desire for conjugal love. Thus Balarāma enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis during those 2 months. Since the season was springtime, the breeze on the bank of the Yamuna was blowing very mildly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, especially the flower known as Kaumudi. Moonlight filled the sky and spread everywhere, and thus the banks of the Yamuna appeared very bright and pleasing. And Lord Balarāma enjoyed the company of the gopis there. The demigod known as Varuna sent his daughter, Varuni, in the form of liquid honey oozing from the hollows of the trees. Because of this honey, the whole forest became aromatic, and the sweet aroma of the liquid honey Varuni captivated Balarāmaji. Balarāmaji and all the gopis became very much attracted by the taste of the Varuni, and all of them drank it together. While drinking this natural beverage, all the gopis chanted the glories of Lord Balarāma, and Lord Balarāma felt very happy, as if he had become intoxicated by drinking that Varuni beverage. His eyes rolled in a pleasing attitude. He was decorated with long garlands of forest flowers, and the whole situation appeared to be a great function of happiness because of this transcendental bliss. Lord Balarāma smiled beautifully, and the drops of perspiration decorating his face appeared like soothing morning dew. While Balarāma was in that happy mood, he desired to enjoy the company of the gopis in the water of the Yamuna. Therefore he called the Yamuna to come nearby, but the Yamuna neglected the order of Balarāmaji, considering him intoxicated. Lord Balarāma became very much displeased at the Yamuna's neglecting his order. He immediately wanted to scratch the land near the river with his plowshare. Lord Balarāma has two weapons, a plow and a club, from which he takes service when they are required. This time he wanted to bring the Yamuna by force, and he took the help of his plow. He wanted to punish the Yamuna because she did not come in obedience to his order. He addressed the Yamuna, "You wretched river, you did not care for my order. Now I shall teach you a lesson. You did not come to me voluntarily. Now, with the help of my plow, I shall force you to come. I shall divide you into hundreds of scattered streams." When the Yamuna was threatened like this, she became greatly afraid of the power of Balarāma, and immediately came in person, falling at his lotus feet and praying thus: "My dear Balarāma, you are the most powerful personality, and you are pleasing to everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot your glorious exalted position, but now I have come to my senses, and I remember that you hold all the planetary systems on your head merely by your partial expansion, Shesha. You are the sustainer of the whole universe. My dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are full with 6 opulences. Because I forgot your omnipotence, I have mistakenly disobeyed your order, and thus I have become a great offender. But my dear Lord, please know that I am a soul surrendered unto you, who are very affectionate to your devotees. Therefore, please excuse my impudence and mistakes, and by your causeless mercy, may you now release me." Upon displaying this submissive attitude, the Yamuna was forgiven, and when she came nearby, Lord Balarāma enjoyed the pleasure of swimming in her waters along with the gopis in the same way that an elephant enjoys himself along with his many she-elephants. After a long time, when Balarāma had enjoyed to his full satisfaction, he came out of the water, and immediately a goddess of fortune offered him a nice blue garment and a valuable necklace made of gold. After bathing in the Yamuna, Lord Balarāma, dressed in blue garments and decorated with golden ornaments, looked very attractive to everyone. Lord Balarāma's complexion is white, and when he was properly dressed, he looked exactly like the white elephant of King Indra in the heavenly planets. The river Yamuna still has many small branches due to being scratched by the plowshare of Lord Balarāma. And all these branches of the river Yamuna still glorify the omnipotence of Lord Balarāma. Lord Balarāma and the gopis enjoyed transcendental pastimes together every night for 2 months, and time passed so quickly that all those nights appeared to be only one night. In the presence of Lord Balarāma, all the gopis and other inhabitants of Vṛndāvana became as cheerful as they had been before in the presence of both brothers, Lord Krishna and Lord Balarāma. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 65th chapter of Krishna, Lord Balarāma visits Vṛndāvana. Lord Balarāma ki jai, Lord Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi ki jai, all the residents of Vṛndāvana ki jai, especially the gopis, and all of their wonderful pastimes together. Hare Krishna. Okay, 744. Chapter 66. The deliverance of Pauṇḍraka and the king of Kāśī. The story of King Pauṇḍraka is very interesting because it proves that there have always been many rascals and fools who have considered themselves God. Even in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, there was such a foolish person. His name was Pauṇḍraka, and he wanted to declare himself God. While Lord Balarāma was absent in Vṛndāvana, this King Pauṇḍraka, the king of Kurusha province, being foolish and puffed up, sent a messenger to Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But King Pauṇḍraka directly challenged Krishna through the messenger, who stated that Pauṇḍraka, not Krishna, was Vyāsadeva. In the present day, there are many foolish followers of such rascals. Similarly, in Pauṇḍraka's day, many foolish men accepted Pauṇḍraka as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because he could not estimate his own position, Pauṇḍraka falsely thought himself to be Lord Vyāsadeva. Thus the messenger declared to Krishna that King Pauṇḍraka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had descended to the earth out of his causeless mercy just to deliver all distressed persons. Surrounded by many other foolish persons, this rascal Pauṇḍraka had actually concluded that he was Vyāsadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This kind of conclusion is certainly childish. When children are playing, they sometimes select a king amongst themselves, and the selected child may think that he is actually the king. Similarly, many foolish persons, due to ignorance, select another fool as God, and then the rascal actually considers himself God, as if God could be created by childish play or by the votes of men. Under this false impression, thinking himself the Supreme Lord, Pauṇḍraka sent his messenger to Dwarka to challenge the position of Krishna. The messenger reached the royal assembly of Krishna in Dwarka and conveyed the message given by his master, Pauṇḍraka. The message contained the following statements. I am the only Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vāsadeva. No man can compete with me. I have descended as King Pauṇḍraka, taking compassion on the distressed conditioned souls out of my unlimited, causeless mercy. You have falsely taken the position of Vāsadeva without authority, but you should not propagate this false idea. You must give up your position. O descendant of the Yadu dynasty, please give up all the symbols of Vāsadeva which you have falsely assumed, and after giving up this position, come and surrender unto me. If out of your gross impudence you do not care for my words, then I challenge you to fight. I am inviting you to a battle in which the decision will be settled. When all the members of the royal assembly, including King Ugrasena, heard this message sent by Pauṇḍraka, they laughed very loudly for a considerable time. After enjoying the loud laughter of all the members of the assembly, Krishna replied to the messenger as follows. O messenger of Pauṇḍraka, you may carry my message to your master. You are a foolish rascal. I directly call you a rascal, and I refuse to follow your instructions. I shall never give up the symbols of Vāsadeva, especially my disc. I shall use this disc to kill not only you, but all your followers also. I shall destroy you and your foolish associates who merely constitute a society of cheaters and the cheated. O foolish king, you will then have to conceal your face in disgrace. And when your head is severed from your body by my disc, it will be surrounded by meat-eating birds like vultures, hawks, and eagles. At that time, instead of becoming my shelter, as you have demanded, you will be subject to the mercy of these low-born birds. At that time, your body will be thrown to the dogs, who will eat it with great pleasure. The messenger carried the words of Krishna to his master, Pauṇḍraka, who patiently heard all these insults. Without waiting any longer, Lord Sri Krishna immediately started out on his chariot to punish the rascal Pauṇḍraka, the king of Kṛṣṇa. Because at that time he was living with his friend, the king of Kāśī, Krishna surrounded the whole city of Kāśī. Pauṇḍraka was a great warrior, and as soon as he heard of Krishna's attack, he came out of the city with 2 Akshohini divisions of soldiers. The king of Kāśī also came out with 3 Akshohini divisions. When the 2 kings came before Lord Krishna to oppose him, Krishna saw Pauṇḍraka face to face for the first time. Krishna saw that Pauṇḍraka had decorated himself with the symbols of the conch shell, disc, lotus, and club. He carried an imitation Shanga bow, and on his chest was a mock insignia of Shrivats. His neck was decorated with a false Kaustuba jewel, and he wore a flower garland in exact imitation of Lord Vāsudeva's. He was dressed in yellow silken garments, and the flag on his chariot carried the symbol Garuda, exactly imitating Krishna's. He had a very valuable helmet on his head, and his earrings, like swordfish, glittered brilliantly. On the whole, however, his dress and makeup were clearly imitation. Anyone could understand that he was just like someone on stage, playing the part of Vāsadeva in false dress. When Lord Krishna saw Pauṇḍraka imitating his posture and dress, he could not check his laughter, and thus he laughed with great satisfaction. The soldiers on the side of King Pauṇḍraka began to shower their weapons upon Krishna. The weapons, including various kinds of tridents, clubs, poles, lances, swords, daggers, and arrows, came flying in waves, and Krishna counteracted them. He smashed not only the weapons, but also the soldiers and assistants of Pauṇḍraka. Just as during the dissolution of this universe, the fire of devastation burns everything to ashes. The elephants, chariots, horses, and infantry belonging to the opposite party were scattered by the weapons of Krishna. Indeed, the whole battlefield became strewn with smashed chariots and the bodies of men and animals. There were fallen horses, elephants, men, asses, and camels. Although the devastated battlefield appeared like the dancing place of Lord Shiva at the time of the dissolution of the world, the warriors on the side of Krishna were very much encouraged by seeing this, and they fought with greater strength. At this time, Lord Krishna told Pauṇḍraka, "Pauṇḍraka, you requested me to give up the symbols of Lord Vishnu, specifically my disc. Now, I will give it up to you. Be careful. You falsely declare yourself Vāsadeva, imitating me. Therefore, no one is a greater fool than you." From this statement of Krishna's, it is clear that any rascal who advertises himself as God is the greatest fool in human society. Krishna continued, "Now, Pauṇḍraka, I shall force you to give up this false representation. You wanted me to surrender unto you. Now, this is your opportunity. We shall now fight, and if I am defeated, and you are victorious, I shall certainly surrender unto you." In this way, after chastising Pauṇḍraka very severely, Krishna smashed Pauṇḍraka's chariot to pieces by shooting his arrows. Then, with the help of his disc, he separated Pauṇḍraka's head from his body, just as Indra shaves off the peaks of mountains by striking them with his thunderbolt. Similarly, Krishna also killed the king of Kāśī with his arrows. Lord Krishna specifically arranged to throw the head of the king of Kāśī into the city of Kāśī itself, so that his relatives and family members could see it. Krishna did this just as a hurricane carries a lotus petal here and there. Lord Krishna killed Pauṇḍraka and his friend Kāśī on the battlefield, and then he returned to his capital city, Dwarka. When Lord Krishna returned to the city of Dwarka, all the siddhas from the heavenly planets were singing his glories. As far as Pauṇḍraka was concerned, somehow or other, he always thought of Lord Vāsadeva by falsely dressing himself in imitation of the Lord. Therefore, Pauṇḍraka achieved Sarupya, one of the 5 kinds of liberation, and was thus promoted to the Vaikuntha planets, where the devotees have the same bodily features as Vishnu, with 4 hands, holding the 4 symbols. Factually, his meditation was concentrated on the Vishnu form. But because he thought himself Lord Vishnu, it was offensive. By his being killed by Krishna, however, that offense was mitigated. Thus he was given Sarupya liberation, and he attained the same form as the Lord. When the head of the king of Kāśī was thrown through the city gate, people gathered and were astonished to see that wonderful thing. When they found out that there were earrings on it, they could understand that it was someone's head. They conjectured as to whose head it might be. Some thought it was Krishna's head, because Krishna was the enemy of Kāśī, and they calculated that the king of Kāśī might have thrown Krishna's head into the city so that the people might take pleasure in the enemies having been killed. But they finally detected that the head was not Krishna's, but that of Kāśī himself. When this was ascertained, the queens of the king of Kāśī immediately approached and began to lament the death of their husband. "Our dear Lord," they cried, "upon your death we have become just like dead bodies." The king of Kāśī had a son. The king of Kāśī had a son whose name was Sudakshina. After observing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies, he took a vow that since Krishna was the enemy of his father, he would kill Krishna, and in this way liquidate his debt to his father. Therefore, accompanied by a learned priest qualified to help him, he began to worship Mahadev, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, who is also known as Vishwanath, is the Lord of the kingdom of Kāśī. The temple of Lord Vishwanath is still existing in Varanasi, and many thousands of pilgrims still gather daily in that temple. By the worship of Sudakshina, Lord Shiva was very much pleased, and he wanted to give a benediction to his devotee. Sudakshina's purpose was to kill Krishna, and therefore he prayed for a specific power by which to kill him. Lord Shiva advised that Sudakshina, assisted by the Brahmanas, execute the ritualistic ceremony for killing one's enemy. This ceremony is also mentioned in some of the tantras. Lord Shiva informed Sudakshina that if a black ritualistic ceremony were performed properly, then the evil spirit named Dakshinagni would appear and then carry out any order given to him. He would have to be employed, however, to kill someone other than a qualified Brahmana. If all these conditions were met, then Dakshinagni, accompanied by Lord Shiva's ghostly companions, would fulfill the desire of Sudakshina to kill his enemy. When Sudakshina was encouraged by Lord Shiva in that way, he was sure that he would be able to kill Krishna. With a determined vow of austerity, he began to execute the black art of chanting mantras, assisted by the priests. After this, out of the fire came a demoniac form, whose hair, beard, and mustache were exactly the color of hot copper. This form was very big and fierce. As the demon rose from the fire, cinders of fire emanated from the sockets of his eyes. The giant fiery demon appeared still more fierce due to the movements of his eyebrows. He exhibited long, sharp teeth, and, sticking out his long tongue, licked his upper and lower lips. He was naked, and he carried a big trident, blazing like fire. After appearing from the fire of sacrifice, he stood wielding the trident. After appearing from the fire of sacrifice, he stood wielding the trident in his hand. Instigated by Sudakshina, the demon proceeded toward the capital city, Dwarka, with many hundreds of ghostly companions, and it appeared that he was going to burn all outer space to ashes. The surface of the earth trembled because of his striking steps. When he entered the city of Dwarka, all the residents panicked, just like animals in a forest fire. At that time, Krishna was playing chess in the Royal Assembly Council Hall. All the residents of Dwarka approached and addressed him. "Dear Lord of the three worlds, a great fiery demon is ready to burn the whole city of Dwarka. Please save us." In this way, all the inhabitants of Dwarka appealed to Lord Krishna for protection from the fiery demon who had just appeared in Dwarka to devastate the whole city. Lord Krishna, who specifically protects his devotees, saw that the whole population of Dwarka was most perturbed by the presence of the great fiery demon. He immediately smiled and assured them, "Don't worry, I shall give you all protection." The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is all-pervading. He is within everyone's heart, and he is also without in the form of the cosmic manifestation. He could understand that the fiery demon was a creation of Lord Shiva, and in order to vanquish the demon, he took his Sudarshan Chakra and ordered him to take the necessary steps. The Sudarshan Chakra appeared with the effulgence of millions of suns, his heat being as powerful as the fire created at the end of the cosmic manifestation. By his effulgence, the Sudarshan Chakra illuminated the entire universe on the surface of the earth as well as in outer space. Then the Sudarshan Chakra began to freeze the fiery demon created by Lord Shiva. In this way, the fiery demon was checked by the Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Krishna, and, being defeated in his attempt to devastate the city of Dwarka, he turned back. Having failed to set fire to Dwarka, the fiery demon went back to Varanasi, the kingdom of Kāśī. As a result of his return, all the priests who had helped instruct the black art of mantras, along with their employer, Sudakshina, were burned to ashes by the glaring effulgence of the fiery demon. According to the methods of black art mantras instructed in the Tantras, if the mantra fails to kill the enemy, then because it must kill someone, it kills the original creator. Sudakshina was the originator, and the priests assisted him. Therefore, all of them were burnt to ashes. This is the way of the demons. The demons create something to kill God, but by the same weapon, the demons themselves are killed. Following just behind the fiery demon, the Sudarshan Chakra also entered Varanasi. This city had been very opulent and great for a very long time. Even now, the city of Varanasi is opulent and famous, and it is one of the important cities of India. There were then many great big palaces, assembly houses, marketplaces, and gates with large and very important monuments by the palaces and gates. Lecturing platforms could be found at each and every crossroads. There were buildings that housed the treasury, elephants, horses, chariots, and grain, and places for distribution of food. The city of Varanasi had been filled with all these material opulences for a very long time, but because the king of Kāśī and his son Sudakshina were against Lord Krishna, the Vishnu Chakra Sudarshan, the disc weapon of Lord Krishna, devastated the whole city by burning all these important places. This excursion was more ravaging than modern bombing. The Sudarshan Chakra, having thus finished his duty, came back to his Lord, Sri Krishna, at Dwarka. This narration of the devastation of Varanasi by Krishna's disc weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, is transcendental and auspicious. Anyone who narrates or hears this story with faith and attention will be released from all reaction to sinful activities. This is the assurance of Shukadeva Goswami, who narrated this story to Maharaj, to Parikshit Maharaj. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 66th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Pauṇḍraka and the king of Kāśī. All glories to Sri Krishna, the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, the invincible, indestructible Supreme Lord of everything, and the source of the universe. Hare Krishna. Doesn't pay to imitate Krishna. Doesn't pay to fight with Krishna. Okay, I'll end the reading for tonight. It's 8:08. And we'll ask the assembled Vaishnavas, please, to grace us with their reflections and discussions of these very important chapters of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Hare Krishna.
First is something from Devadharana.
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 Hare Krishna.
Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
From Gopakanya.
Gopakanya Devidasi, Haribol.
She says, Jai Maharaj, Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda, Jai Krishna Katha, and Jai to all the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
The lovers of Krishna Katha. From Anandamurti Devidasi.
Yes, it's very important to glorify the devotees who are very much attached to hearing about Krishna. This is very pleasing to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Anandamurti Devidasi says, Jai Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Sudevi Dasi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Rati Manjari says, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai Hare Krishna Rati.
And there's something here from
Vilas
Brian.
Manjari ki Jai Haribol.
From Brian Phillips.
Hey, Bhakta Brian.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj and assembled devotees. Lovely to be with you again. So lucky to be in the presence of company such as yours. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
I don't know why everybody says that I'm just a peon trying to deliver the mail. Hare Krishna.
He also says, Dear Maharaj, you quoted these verses to me back in 94, and I never forgot that. Bhagavad Gita 1865 and 66. Thank you once again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, we're just waiting, Bhakta Brian, for us to get together again. We're here, just waiting. Please come see us sometime.
There's something here from Bhakta Rupa.
Hey, Bhakta Rupa. Your butterfly is smiling down on Prabhupada and the rest of us. Hare Krishna.
He says, thank you for letting us come to read with you, Maharaj. It was an electric 2 readings, and it felt like we were all members of the same family. Very sweet and very lovely.
Yes.
Really an unforgettable time. Can only thank you for being so available for all of us. It is unprecedented. On book distribution today, I was telling everyone about the experience of coming to read with you and exclaiming how amazing and powerful it was to simply read these books out loud. Most people seemed very intrigued and took books based on the testimony.
That's pretty fun.
Really such a powerful activity. I pray I can continue to partake. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Bhaktivedanta. That was an extraordinary statement and an extraordinary story about distributing books by telling that story. I mean, I'm speechless. Hare Krishna. Wonderful. Thank you.
P.S. It was also nice to see Abai. Felt like seeing a good old friend. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
From Sabina Kurana.
Sabina Kurana.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai Ho.
Anandamurti Devidasi says, Jai, all glories to the Lord's transcendental pastime.
Jai Anandamurti.
And something more from Devadharana.
Devadharana Haribol.
It would seem that Pauṇḍraka constantly thought of Lord Krishna despite his intentions to his benefit. Jai for his ultimate promotion, right? If only I would constantly think of Lord Krishna, not in the same way, of course, then I would be constantly happy. Hare Krishna, thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Well, we don't want to follow in Pauṇḍraka's footsteps. He got delivered because he was killed by Krishna, actually. I mean, this is really Krishna's causeless mercy, because Pauṇḍraka really wasn't eligible, because he was thinking about of the Lord of Vyāsadeva, but he was thinking he was Vyāsadeva. So that didn't make him eligible for anything except for the Sudarshan disc. But because he was killed by Krishna, therefore, out of Krishna's compassion, because he was desired to be, Krishna, he gave him that opportunity to have a form like himself. That's how merciful Krishna is. Even to his enemies, he gives benefit. Takes care of everyone. Hare Krishna.
There's a question here from Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Rati, go ahead.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. We have heard tonight that the son of the king of Kāśī took revenge on the death of his father. I was wondering whether there is a place for revenge in Vaishnava behavior.
Not in this world, there isn't. In the spiritual world, there is. Sometimes, one camp of gopis will, compete with the other camp for Krishna's affection, and there will be, activities that resemble revenge. But it's not revenge. It's not revenge in the same sense as revenge in the material world. Revenge in the material world is meant to hurt others. But in the spiritual world, when there's competition and, wrestling competition, and one party wins and the other party loses, and the other party has to take the other party on their backs and, do things like that. It may look externally like some kind of revenge or some kind of winning over the other party, but all it does is increase everybody's love for Krishna. There's no room for material revenge in Vaishnava behavior. But there is room for sporting and for all the activities that we do here with Krishna in the spiritual world. That's why we shouldn't become attached to this place. We're attached to Krishna, we're attached to helping others come to Krishna, but we're not attached to this place. And therefore when we go, we won't have to have our heads cut off by Krishna to go back to him. He will embrace us and take us back by the hand. Hare Krishna.
Rati Manjari says, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Anandamurti says, it is so merciful that Sri Krishna gave Sarupya Mukti to Pauṇḍraka.
Yes, absolutely.
Devadharana says, again, thank you for the clarification for my benefit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And something from Gauranga Gopal.
Gauranga Gopal, Hari Bo.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for welcoming us for the last two readings. It was such a delight being in your association.
Well, we were delighted. You know, we don't usually have so much association here. We were like, I was swept away by the effulgence of all of you and the atmosphere you created. Yeah. You can ask Abhaya, he feels the same way. And ask Radharaman, he feels the same way because he met you over in Atma Lounge. Very exemplary. All of you were very effulgent and clean and in goodness and loving to hear and responding with such wonderful questions. It was a transcendental experience for us also. Proof of the pudding is in the eating. The proof of the potency of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who takes it seriously becomes effulgent and attractive and completely different than a person in the material world.
I appreciate how subtle the difference between Krishna and Balarāma is, as it is said that only their color really differs. However, their characters are obviously very different.
Yes.
Krishna is often described with a more mellow personality, always joyful, calm, wise, and cheeky. In many pastimes we hear Lord Balarāma being described as more prone to transcendental anger or impatience, like after Arjuna kidnaps Subhadra, when he kills Romaharshan with a blade of grass, or this very pastime you just read. Variety is definitely the mother of enjoyment, as we hear often.
Absolutely. Yes. The variegatedness of Krishna's pastimes is unlimited, and therefore we will always be satisfied. Anybody who gets bored with Krishna's pastimes are not hearing Krishna's pastimes. They're hearing something in their own minds or something, but they're not hearing the pastimes. Jatma karma chame dibyam evam yo vidi tatpataha jaktu deham punarjama naitimam mitisorjana. If you understand, actually accept and understand the activities and birth of Krishna, then you're no longer eligible to come back to this material world. Hare Krishna.
One more comment from Rati Manjari. She said, Pauṇḍraka sounded like a complete nutcase, but at least he made Krishna and his devotees laugh heartily.
Yes, that was a really good part. Have a good laugh, we always say. It's a good thing to have a good laugh. There's some people who actually take it as some kind of, therapy or something, laugh therapy or something. When we used to go to the Body, Mind and Spirit Festival, we see these people putting on these, little programs, having laughter, laughing their heads off, as they say. Yes, everything's there in Krishna's pastimes. They're complete. Complete and not complete in the sense that they're always expanding and always,
She says, please bless us, dear Guru Maharaj, that we may hear Krishna's pastimes with hearts full of faith and love.
Yes. So be it, so be it. And also without argument, because that's one of the important parts of hearing about Krishna, is to be able to hear these pastimes as actual historical events that happened. And that makes it even more wondrous. And the more we are in that mentality, in that mood, then the more Krishna becomes happy with us. And then he'll choose us, and then we can go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Then we can see Krishna face to face. And Pauṇḍraka saw him face to face. That's pretty auspicious. You either have to do something very, very good or very, very bad. Thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful reflections and sincere sentiments. A pleasure hearing the glories of the Lord. And we share all those feelings with you, and pray that we will always be able to hear Krishna's pastimes forever. Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same place, same time, same topic. The ever-increasing nectar ocean of Krishna's pastimes. Hare Krishna.